I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here. I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God.
LeMay took a shot at my hero.
This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch.
And they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
Thank you.
Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. I'm not going to lie, I just got chills rewatching it, and I already watched it last night. And we are going to talk about that later on in the show. Also, I'd be lying if I told you that I didn't already go on the Trump campaign website and buy one of those red cutoff tees that Hulk Hogan was wearing. I already bought it, and I'm really hoping that the shipping doesn't take long. So we'll talk about that. But I want to start with just the chaos that is going on since Joe Biden announced that he had COVID. Maybe I should say COVID, because we don't even know if he actually really does have COVID. But everything has been completely chaotic with the Democrat Party. And Democrat strategist Van Jones, I want to play what he had to say after Joe Biden announced that he was ending that campaign trip that he had to Nevada due to COVID. Watch.
A bullet couldn't stop Trump. A virus just stopped Biden. You've got the nominees of this party getting their butts kissed. Biden's getting his butt kicked by his own party. The Democrats are coming apart. The Republicans are coming together.
Wow. And you know he hates to see it, but it's absolutely true. So last night, Mark Halperin broke news from, he said inside sources that the Biden campaign is over. Watch.
Carl, according to multiple Democratic sources, this is happening all of a sudden. Everyone said it would happen gradually and then all at once, and that's what's happening. According to my sources, President Biden has agreed to step down as the Democratic nominee.
Oh, man.
It will happen as early as this weekend. A speech has been drafted for him. He will continue on as president, is his intention. He also will not, I'm told, endorse Vice President Harris as his successor. They're hoping that he will endorse an open process in which the convention will be open to Vice President Harris and a few other candidates in Chicago to pick the Democratic nominee for president.
The plot thickens. He tweeted out additional details. He said, Biden plans to announce a withdrawal from nomination as early as this weekend, with Sunday most likely. John Meacham polishing up remarks. Biden will not resign the presidency. Biden will not endorse Harris. Open convention with Harris and about 3 others. Superdelegates will not be allowed to vote on the first ballot. And Harris is vetting at least 4 possible running mates, including Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky and possibly Governor Mark Shapiro of Pennsylvania. Other names that are being dropped include Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Governor Gavin Newsom. Holy crap! Let's get ready to rumble, folks. A recent poll from Blue Labs Analytics shows Democrats are looking for a fresh face for the party. The pollsters concluded that the data strongly suggests the best chance to defeat Trump is with a new Democrat nominee independent of the incumbent administration. So what names floated to the top of the polling data? So the strongest potential candidates are Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and all 4 outpaced Biden by roughly 5 points across battleground states. But due to the rules of the DNC Open Convention, I told you the plot thickens. Any candidate who shows up at the convention could be nominated if they have enough delegates. And by the way, I want to get into what this open convention could look like, should that be what happens. But I mean, when I'm reading these names off and you're like, I vaguely have heard of that person. I don't know that person. I do know that that woman is the worst. I'm not sure who that person is. I mean, that bench is small. So here's some, I don't know, details on if this DNC open convention takes place. The last open convention was in 1968. And obviously this means there is no predetermined nominee to award the title. So the nominating process to find one would take place at the convention where delegates, they were previously bound to Biden. But if he opens it up, he basically tells them, I'm giving you permission to be able to cast your votes for whoever the new candidate that emerges that you want. You can go ahead and cast your vote for them instead. And so during the primary season, candidates earn delegates based on their performance in state contests. And then the delegates some of them are pledged, some of them are unpledged, and they will cast votes at the convention until a candidate secures a nomination. And, there have been several times mostly I would say there is a presumed nominee, maybe a couple times, but it's been open. But like I said, last open convention, 1968. So to secure the party nomination, a candidate needs 1,976 delegate votes on the first ballot. Biden has received almost 4,000. So if Biden endorses Harris, which they're saying that he won't. Mark Halperin saying he won't. But if he endorsed Harris and the party followed suit, Biden's delegates would be transferred to Harris and the convention would operate relatively the same as if Biden were winning. But I feel like I just need to keep saying the plot thickens. But wait, there's more. Just because a candidate wins the most delegates does not mean that they will win the nomination, because if the convention is contested and goes to a second ballot or more, automatic delegates you have heard the term superdelegates. Okay, those superdelegates are now allowed to vote. They're now able to vote. And a superdelegate is an unelected delegate who is free to support any candidate at the convention. Get your popcorn ready, is what I'm saying. Should that be the case? Should it happen the way that Mark Halperin says that it will? So a candidate has to receive majority support from all delegates, which is 2,258 votes. Now, I just want to throw this out there. Again, should Mark Halperin and everything that he's saying come to fruition, which I would like to just point out, I don't want to happen. I want Joe Biden as the nominee, writing it out into the sunset until Election Day. I want Joe Biden on the ticket. Okay, so I'm not saying that this is the path that I want, but should this be the case, how do the delegates get put on the spot to choose anyone other than the first Black woman vice president, right? Like, they've touted this DEI hire in Kamala Harris, the first Black woman, the first Indonesian woman. I mean, they've given her all of these check boxes as vice president. How do you, when you're put on the spot publicly, how do you not go for that woman? They're going to be forced to embrace all of the DEI that they have been touting this entire time. I don't see how this ends up any other way. Even though they all know, that's the crazy thing, is like, this is DEI, this is DEI karma. Okay? This is all of the DEI hires, all of putting DEI as the most significant issue when you're hiring someone. This is all of that coming back to bite them in the ass, because how do you overlook that? You've just told everyone that the most important qualification that all of your people have is what genitals they have or who they like to sleep with. Like, that's been the entirety of your administration. That's how you pick Supreme Court justices. That's how you pick press secretaries. That's how you pick your vice president. I mean, guys, as much as the left likes to say Kamala wasn't chosen because of her skin color, want to make a bet? Joe Biden was on camera being asked if he was going to pick a Black woman, and he said yes. Like, They already painted it in the box. He didn't have a choice. Of course, that's what it was. And so now, how do you walk away? How do you navigate away from Kamala? They know she sucks. They know nobody likes her. They knew that when Joe Biden picked her because she was in the freaking race with him and couldn't even get, 1%? She had to drop out. But then what do? She's the first black woman VP. You're not gonna give her that shot? So I think that that's what's going to happen. But honestly, as of the time of this taping, I don't even know what news will shake out by the time you're even watching this. That's going to be different because the Biden campaign is already coming out. They're saying as of Friday morning, this morning, that, look, Joe Biden's isolating, but he's going to be back on the campaign trail on Monday. He is not dropping out. And I understand that things change and I understand that politicians lie, but you could just be quiet. You could just say nothing. Instead, they're digging in their heels at the same time that over 30 Democrats now are publicly calling for Joe Biden to resign. And I'm just here for it, honestly. I'm here for the show. I'm here for the party. It is really great to see the shoe on the other foot every once in a while because Lord knows we've had our moments and it's nice to see the Democrats having it for themselves. I'm here for it. Couldn't happen to a more deserving group of people. So I want to bring in my guest today. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Mobile. Americans are, they're tired. They're frustrated by, look around you, a stalling economy, inflation, endless wars, and of course, the relentless assault on our values. And thankfully, there are companies, they're very few and far between, though. There are a few companies like Patriot Mobile that still believe in America and our Constitution. And I could not love these guys more. I am friends with their CEO and his wife. And they are just some of the best people I have ever known in my life and really, honestly, true patriots. They're on the front lines fighting for the First and Second Amendments. They're on the front lines fighting for the sanctity of life and our military and first responder heroes. Take a stand for conservative causes and put America first by switching to Patriot Mobile today. They're going to give you the same nationwide coverage as all the big providers because they operate across all three major networks. But you'll know that your money is not going to fund the left. Instead, they're going to take a portion of your money and they are going to fund all of these causes that you are fighting for rather than fighting against. Go to patriotmobile.com/Sarah. You can get a free month when you use the offer code Sarah. That is patriotmobile.com/Sarah. By the way, you're probably going to save money when you do it. So there's no reason not to go there. Check them out. Go patriotmobile.com/Sarah, offer code Sarah. Welcome to the show, John Doyle, of course, Blaze TV contributor, host of Heck Off Commie, and America's favorite patriot.
True. It's a fantastic day to be a loyal MAGA patriot. It's a fantastic day to give the perspective of Sara Gonzales without a filter. I mean, I couldn't ask for more.
So I want to talk about later in the show. Let's talk about the epic night at the RNC convention. But I do want to get your take first on the craziness that's going on within the Democrat Party, because, I mean, we're just coming off this high of having one of the most epic RNC conventions. It might be the most. I don't know. I don't study up on RNC conventions, but it's the best one that I've ever seen. Right. And so we're coming off of this high of this amazing convention. Our guy just got shot and he's there and, just a huge high. And then you have the other side who seems to be just completely imploding. Everyone's like, Joe Biden has COVID and, oh, by the way, he's going to drop out. And Joe Biden's campaign is like, nuh-uh, no, we're not. Absolutely not. As early as this morning, they released a statement slamming Donald Trump and saying that Joe Biden was looking forward to getting back on the campaign trail next week. 35 Democrats are calling for him to step down. What happens?
That's awesome. Joe Biden should understand that these party elites have always looked down on Scranton Joe, and he needs to stay in the race and not bend the knee to these elitists because Joe Biden is that's the American spirit. I mean, he is American vitality. I mean, the guy's 81, still talking about beating up Donald Trump behind the schoolhouse or whatever. He needs to stay in and not let these pinko bastards take his presidency away from him. I mean, the guy has been towing the party line for 100 years. Now he's finally president, and he's going to let these people take that away from him because their party platform is so stupid that they can't quite get it together. Because that's the thing. I mean, these people are so neurotic, and we all know this. You try to talk to a liberal, it's like talking to a wall. It's because you are talking to a wall. Like, that is actually what you are doing. And so everybody who is working in the wall party is like, oh, we're doing so badly, but it can't be because our ideas are bad. It can't be because we're incapable of governing. It must be because just like 2 weeks ago, everyone found out for the first time that Joe Biden's a vegetable. Before that, they didn't know that.
Right.
Now they're finding that out. And because he dropped 2 points in the polls, he was already down. But then that extra 2 points, that pushes him over. And so now we have to swap him out. So it's just a way to make excuses for the fact that they're incapable of governing. I mean, they can blame it on Joe Biden. Oh, we have to put in Kamala or whomever to save it. That's not why Americans are rejecting the party. It's not because of Joe Biden. It's because they suck and they don't know how to do anything.
Well, and so then do you think that, I mean, look, I said this earlier, I understand politicians lie, but the Biden campaign could just be silent. Instead, they're doubling and tripling down that Joe is going to stay in the race. And so it almost seems like maybe people on the side of Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff are maybe intentionally leaking here, New York Times, I got a tip that Joe Biden plans to step down this weekend, and then waiting to see if that forces him to, in fact, step down, because he is not giving any indications going into the weekend that is what he, or I should say that is what Jill plans to do for him at all.
It's just disgusting conduct. I mean, if there's one thing you know about Joe Biden, you say what you will about him, the guy is honest. He says what is on his mind because
I need for the audio podcast listeners to understand that he's being very sarcastic.
No, I'm not.
Now.
You do this thing that is my favorite where you interrupt me midpoint and try to make me look like I will finish. Okay. What I meant by that is his cognitive faculties.
Show's called Sara Gonzales Unfiltered.
You asked me to come on. Okay. Let's a team effort. You're not uniting the right now. You are being divisive. You're basically like,
go ahead.
Gavin Newsom. I will finish. I was going to say that he's not there enough mentally to lie. I mean, to lie, you have to know what the truth is. You have to know what what you want. And then you have to try to find a way to, the guy, he can't. So he just blurts things out, And so they need to understand that Joe Biden is not going to back down. He's not going to be afraid of these people and this conduct. And I think that's why the COVID thing happened. I mean, you've got him now isolated with his family. You've got Jill Biden, the matriarch of the theater kid occupied government. She's doing magazine cover shoots for Vogue. You've got Hunter Biden, who understands that his lifestyle, which is traveling around the world, smoking crack, booze cruising, sports cars, pointing loaded guns at prostitutes. I'm not endorsing that lifestyle. I'm not. I'm just saying there's an expiration date to that. Hey, you can't be a rock star, or you can't do that forever. I've used that in a bad context. But if his father steps down, that's going to come to an end much sooner for him. And so he has an incentive to guard his father's ear and protect him from the lies and the venom that these other party operatives are trying to put in there.
He also hasn't gotten that pardon yet. So he is like, Dad, just hang on. Please, for the love of God, hang on until you can at least pardon me.
Yes.
So do you even think that Biden has COVID? Or do you think that they just...
I'll do you one better. I don't even think that's a real thing. I mean, going back...
That's why I was like, they're still testing him for that?
Yeah, my understanding was that we pretty much figured out it was just the flu, but maybe a different flavors. I don't even know. I mean, I'm sure that's a good line for your party. If I'm in charge of a party of retards and I'm trying to get them to calm down, I'm going to be like, hey, remember that really scary thing? That's what I have. So it's really serious, and that's why I'm going to step back. And then they're like, oh, so true. And, put the mask on and everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he didn't even... That's the thing, though, because he's not even playing the part that well. He was spotted at a Mexican restaurant 20 minutes before they went on stage and announced that he had COVID, and he's walking up the airplane steps. By the way, he didn't trip this time, but he wasn't wearing a mask. I mean, he's not wearing a mask at the Mexican restaurant 20 minutes prior to them announcing. Obviously, they didn't go up on stage and announce as soon as they found out, assuming that this is even all true, right? So none of that even makes sense. I'm just convinced that they made it up.
I don't know. I mean, you're thinking about it in a very checkers sort of way. You need to think about it in a more chess kind of way, where if COVID's no longer an issue and Joe Biden's going to claim to have COVID, he has to super spread. He has to manufacture the issue by getting in the faces of minorities and, making them infected and sick. So I don't know. I think that the guy is still, I mean, there's a reason he's been around for 50 years. The guy is a tactician. He knows what he's doing.
Yes. Well, let's say that the Democrats, I know you think it's very awfully mean of them to do, but let's say that they do force him out. What happens next?
Well, it has to be Kamala because they've got that war chest and they need money because Trump is getting a lot of money and they're also down and they're down pretty bad. So it would have to be Kamala. Or I saw this like one really schizo idea where they're like, okay, Joe needs to put Kamala on the Supreme Court, force Sotomayor or whatever her name is to retire. And then, bring in someone.
Did you say Sotomayor?
I don't know what her
Just Sotomayor.
Is she an impressive legal figure? Should I know what her name is?
I mean, she's not impressive.
It's a total disaster. So, yeah, I don't even know her name. But it was like, okay, we can get Kamala on the Supreme Court so she's happy. And then we bring in like Gavin Newsom to be the vice president or someone else to be. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. They're totally backed into a corner right now. But yeah, I guess it would have to be Kamala.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point about the money and about the war chest, which, again, the rumors are that Obama has said the money's turning off. Like, I'm calling all of my donor friends who have donated to you, and your funds are going to be frozen.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any more money. You need to step down. And so I would agree with you that also Kamala is their DEI hire. They've just embraced her as like all of these check boxes that are checked off. How are you going to overlook her?
Yes, because they have staffed their media with theater kids, and you cannot count on theater kids who are all very radically left to play ball with the swamp elders who they hate. And so if they did jump over Kamala Harris, the first woman of color, the first female president or whatever, there would be articles and more leaks and things like that because you would have that sort of lower class of operatives within the Democrat Party who would be very upset to see that happen. And they would not understand the importance strategically, if you're a Democrat, of looking over her because she's extraordinarily off-putting. I mean, maybe even more off-putting than Hillary Clinton. I think Gretchen Whitmer's still the most off-putting.
She's awful.
Yeah, she's not likable at all.
So she's one of the ones, Gretchen Whitmer, she's one of the ones that I was going over this polling data about who the potential candidates could be. And I just thought it was really sad that they were talking about these strongest potential candidates. Arizona Senator Mark Kelly is one of them. You.
Who?
Thank you. Yeah. Let me do you one better. Maryland Governor Wes Moore.
That sounds like a mall or something.
They're listing people nobody knows.
Yeah, it's not like a...
I mean, obviously, they, like I said, Whitmer, everyone knows. Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, I think people have heard the name. Like, could you pick him up out of a lineup?
No.
These are their bench is like non-existent.
Yeah, they have no political talent because their party does not select for meritocracy.
Right.
They just promote based on who's going to toe the line. And the problem with that is then the people who raise to the higher ranks are not people who are politically talented. They're just people who can like lie the most effectively. Hillary Clinton, for what you'll say about her, she was politically talented in the sense where she could handle tougher questions and sort of, do what she had to do. She was decent at retail politics. They just don't have anybody who can do that anymore. I mean, everybody they have is extraordinarily off-putting and weird, and they just don't.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, especially up against Donald Trump fresh off of an assassination attempt.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the guy, every sentence he says is just like perfect. Like, it's incredible the way he can speak and work a crowd. Like the only thing they would have maybe that could compete with that would be Gavin Newsom, but he's smart enough to not want to, especially, 4 months in, you're going to lose. There's no way you win that race. So if he's looking at it from a longer term perspective, he's probably just going to wait until 2028 or something.
I don't think he's looking at it from a longer term perspective. He clearly wants it. He's showing up at the debate. He's running ads in Florida talking about how California is way more free. You should come over to California. It feels a lot like he's inserting himself into this conversation. And he's also gaslighting because he's inserting himself into the conversation to be like, oh, I strongly endorse Joe Biden. Oh, he's more than capable. Did you see that guy? He knows what he's doing. I fully trust Joe Biden. And we're all like, no, you don't.
I think if I were him and I were a sociopath, I would probably be doing that to demonstrate that I'm putting my hat in the ring in the sense where I'm a national profile. I'm not just the governor of California. I'm debating Ron DeSantis. He was supposed to be the future of the Republican Party, and I'm sparring with him. I think he's positioning himself advantageously for 2028. But in my opinion, if he really wanted it, he could have gotten it, and that would have been like a year or two ago, when he really started becoming more of a household topic. And he didn't make any moves at that time. And he entertained like the debate with DeSantis and these other things, but he didn't really go for it in the sense that he probably could have.
Yeah, but his party is the incumbent.
Yes.
So how could he? So you think he should have just challenged Biden directly?
Not directly. I mean, I'm sure that there are plenty of backdoor conversations that were had that were sort of pawing at him and seeing what his inclination would be. And I think he didn't take it because he understood that you can't like primarying Joe Biden because Joe Biden's campaign, or excuse me, his administration is doing a horrible job and trying to introduce yourself to the American people as I'm the governor of California, you know, that state you like to vacation to. Look at the state of California, literally in terms of like material standard of living. It's a disaster. So I don't think he wanted to get involved in that prematurely. I think he wants to stand back and stand by and just see what happens.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. And we've got some updates on what we know and what we don't know about the Donald Trump shooter. We'll get into that when we return. So the assassination attempt on Donald Trump is obviously like the biggest news of our lifetimes, I would say. And people are very hungry for answers. And I would say a lot of that is due to the fact that there has been very little detail that has come out. And we're going on, tomorrow will be 1 week. And there are certain details that were like, guys, this should have taken maybe a day to give us, and we still don't have any of those details. I understand there are certain aspects that it may take some time, but when we have such little information, it's extremely frustrating. And I think that people, maybe rush to conclusions. So I just want to preface this with I do think that we need to be careful when we're analyzing all of this and not be too quick to jump to any conclusions. I love a good conspiracy theory, don't get me wrong, but so here, this footage that has been surfacing around the internet from Right Side Broadcasting Network of the rally, which people have blown up, zoomed in, and they say that it shows a possible gunman on the water tower. I'll let you watch that.
Chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
It's so hard to even see if that's a person.
Okay, water towers.
That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
I mean, even there. Look, I think this was an inside job? Absolutely, but
where was
that
the
could be a compression?
Tower?
It could be a compression issue.
Where was that relative to where the president was speaking? Does that angle match up to where it would have?
What I have seen is that the angle does match up.
Okay.
And that's why I'm I understand that that's where people's minds go, because when I saw, again, I haven't gone to Google Maps to verify that the diagram that I saw was correct. But the diagram that I saw showed the roof and the angle, the trajectory that the bullet would have gone, and then the water tower, and then the counter snipers. And it did seem like what I saw, again, completely unverified, was matching up with the water tower angle rather than the roof. But again, that was so blurry. I know that there are video analysts who have been saying that it could be a compression issue with the video. So look, we don't know. Let's focus on what we do know here. Okay. Prior to, back when it just happened, authorities said Crooks had no criminal history and was not known to have a criminal record. And I want to play for you Senator Dick Durbin trying to, actually, let me read you his quote here, spinning the narrative. It says, "It's remarkable how unremarkable the shooter is. But this unremarkable situation, according to the FBI, is not disclosing anything that shows him to be extraordinary from a political perspective." And then, of course, now we find out as a freshman This guy threatened to shoot up his high school and put bombs in the bathroom. Okay, yesterday, federal officers talked to Crook's former classmate, 20-year-old Vincent Taormina, and he said, we had like this anonymous place you could post things or tell someone on our computers at school. And he posted something like, don't come to school tomorrow, and something else that made it sound like he'd put bombs in the cafeteria bathrooms. Half of us just didn't come to school the next day. I didn't, but it wasn't taken seriously. We all texted one another, and it came out pretty quickly that it was Thomas and his friend group who'd made the threats to shoot the school up. Now, this was not just Crook's friends saying this. He also posted this on Steam. He said, July 13th will be my premiere. Watch as it unfolds. Now, I do also want to say, I questioned that it was like buried in a Fox News story. It said, well, also this classmate, it wasn't this one, this other classmate this other classmate thought that Thomas Crooks was behind a threat to shoot up the school, but because he was absent for days afterwards. So he was the only one who was absent, and there were school shootings that were being threatened. So they thought that it was him, but they weren't sure. And I was like, why is this buried so far in this story? This seems like a big freaking deal that we should know about. Well, now we find out, yeah, actually, it was him. Back then, when were just learning of this information, they say, oh, even though we haven't actually gone through the whole cell phone, we can tell you that the cell phone has no information. Now, all of a sudden, we find out that the second cell phone, there's a second cell phone. Surprise! It was found with 27 contacts and 3 encrypted overseas accounts, according to 2 sources from the Associated Press. So, by the way, I would just like to ask, were these encrypted overseas accounts created before or after his association with BlackRock? Because we do know that he was in a BlackRock commercial. I would like to know the timing on that. Just saying, what are the chances that there's a connection to Iran? What are the chances that this is a connection to BlackRock? Iran says it wasn't us, but that wouldn't be the first time that they would say that wasn't us. Let me give you one more, John. Back then, they were like, there is no history of mental illness, even though, by the way, both parents are licensed mental health counselors who would have easy access to get him the help that he would need. But then we find out that he allegedly searched major depressive disorder on his second phone, which, again, seems odd to me that you have 2 mental health counselors in your house. Remember, he lived with his mom and dad, and yet nobody knew. He had no mental illness. He was only threatening to shoot up schools and putting bombs in the bathroom or wherever the hell he put the bombs. But guys, he was totally fine. Like, what?
I think that the point you bring up about how both of his parents were shrinks, I think the mom was like a social worker, the dad was a psychiatrist or something. That's the smoking gun right there. I mean, as you alluded to, the entire concept of mental health is like not even real in the sense that science understands it to be. Like the whole model is based on, for example, with depression, that you have some chemical imbalance that just occurs naturally. Therefore, if we give you SSRIs, we can rewire your brain and make you feel normal. That was actually just a year or so ago totally debunked. I mean, I hate to use that word, but clinically, that model has been shown to not even be a real model of how the brain works. And actually, something like creatine, which is something that people take when they exercise, has been shown to reduce symptoms of depression more so than even SSRIs have. So that whole model's messed up. But you look at the kid's face, and your brain tells you something's not right here. This kid kind of looks the part. That's real. I mean, I don't want to say that the guy's ugly, but what causes people to be what we would understand as ugly is like maldevelopment. When your hormones are imbalanced, when you are not growing as you should be, your facial proportions are messed up. That happens increasingly in our generation because of poison in food packaging, the water supply, residual hormones in the tap water because of birth control. Like, my generation is growing up and they are spiritually ill and mentally ill, and a lot of it is biological because of what we're eating, what we're exposed to. And so this kid looks the part. And so I do sympathize with the impulse to, I think it's well-meaning, place blame on foreign countries or even the CIA, because it almost says, okay, that's where the smell is coming from. If we clean that up, problem solved. I think it's a much scarier, though more realistic alternative or explanation that the rot is just that deep and it's everywhere. I mean, there are millions of people in this country who are just frankly freaks, and they are so sick internally, and what they want to do is find a way to just go out with a bang, so to speak. I mean, if you're a leftist, you reject hierarchy because you can't compete in it, but the only way you can ascend that is then to be the best ally, to be the best advocate for, the cause against the evil white people. And the way to do that in this case is, go after the president, who American people to be viewed to be an avatar for their cause. Or if you're, like in Tennessee, you want to get revenge against young white Christian children. I mean, this is like what these people do because they're freaks and they are dysgenic. And I think that we really need to start to focus more on health, not mental health, physical health, because you are body, mind, and soul. These are all intertwined. And I'm sure that the feds knew about this guy just like they know about all these. And they were probably, oh, wouldn't it be like super sick if you... But I think that to really shut that valve off, we need to be healthy and well developed again.
Yeah, I mean, when I read yesterday when the news broke, they're like, oh, actually, he has 3 encrypted overseas accounts. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm sure that this 20-year-old loner had he was approached by what? Iran? Yes, I'm sure that he was approached by Iran and they like conspired to do this. I'm sure they picked the 20-year-old loner. Yeah, that definitely happened. No, I don't believe it. But again, the BlackRock commercial, I'm just saying. It's
a weird coincidence, but I think that people tend to view these things like too much like director's commentary on like a Blu-ray where they're like, they're like looking back and they're like, oh, and here's our master plan and we're going to put him in the BlackRock commercial 10 years before. And that's just like a little wink, just something for us behind the scenes, All
right, then let me see if I can sell you on this, John.
Sure.
Okay. The photo that we have seen, which I'm not going to show for you here, we have a policy of not showing images of dead bodies, but the photo of his body on the roof. I want to play for you a clip from Dr. Molly James. She's an intensive care unit and emergency room trauma surgeon with extensive experience with gunshot wounds. And she said this about the blood spatter that was missing from the scene in an interview with the Gateway Pundit. Watch.
So with a gunshot wound to the head, it's usually extremely messy. The exit wound is very large, and we see blood spatter, we see brain material, bone fragments, things like that should be present at the exit site. And this was a long distance shot, so we would expect it to go quite a ways based on the fact that, high speed bullet, large trajectory pattern after hitting at the exit. So the entrance is always smaller, the exit is bigger. So I would expect to see that 5, 10, 15 feet.
Okay. Also, which I don't even know what that means, because it's like, wait, so like he's not dead? I don't even understand what we're going for here. But she also said that the blood pattern on his face, she says it defies gravity. Watch.
Depends exactly where the bullet hits. So looking at this photo, we can't tell the exact trajectory. We see a lot of soft tissue swelling in the face, it looks like, potentially the teeth or blood in the gums, things like that. The interesting thing is in this photo, the gentleman is laying on his side and has over his face. So blood, it follows gravity and runs down. It does not run uphill. So it's kind of interesting that he has blood on top of his face. You would think it would run down. So it makes you wonder if the body was rolled or moved in some way.
I mean, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure it was manipulated, making sure that he was disarmed.
Yeah.
I haven't seen, if I saw like a full 360 of it, to be honest, I kind of wanted to see like, the cooler parts of it.
John.
Oh, sorry, never mind. Look, as someone who has spent many an afternoon browsing like cartel videos, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. I look at that and I'm like, that looks about right. And that's kind of what that's supposed to look like.
You're saying you're an expert.
Not an expert. I have experience watching people like, So you can find a lot of interesting content on the internet. I know you're in your echo chamber here in your studio and everything, but you need to expand your horizons. There's a lot of interesting content.
Sounds like it. All right, this sounds like a really great time to take a quick break. We'll be back. So coming off of the RNC convention, one of the, I would say, greatest moments of the week was Kai Trump, who is Donald Trump's granddaughter. She is the daughter of Donald Trump Jr. And 17 years old, she delivered this just beautiful speech about her grandfather, Donald Trump. Watch.
On Saturday, I was shocked when I heard that he has been shot. And I just wanted to know if he was okay. It was heartbreaking that someone would do that to another person. A lot of people have put my grandpa through hell, and he's still standing.
Well, Whoopi Goldberg saw that and said, no. Don't fall for this, America. Okay, don't fall for this. Here was the reason that she gave. Watch.
And I know his grandchild was up on the thing, and they're trying to humanize him and change your idea about who this guy is. Don't fall for that.
Trump. He's talking about. He's talking about Trump.
Guys, like,
you literally are like emerging from under the bridge. Like, wait. I know that there was like this beautiful young woman who was telling you that she was upset that her grandpa died, but I'm like fat and ugly, and you should actually listen to me. Come on, gang.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, this is literally this rhetoric is literally what led to people wanting to kill him because you are trying to dehumanize him.
Yep.
What do you mean she's trying to humanize him? Is he not a human?
Yeah.
That's what you guys have wanted people to think for so long. It's just so wild to me she's even saying that out loud. She's trying to humanize him. That's because he is one.
Yeah, I mean, her name is literally like Whoopi. Like, imagine being a person who's like, did you hear Whoopi's take on it? Like, imagine getting dressed in the morning and eating and then using those calories and converting that into energy, which is then spent saying the sentence, did you hear what Whoopi had to say today? Like, those are people that exist.
They are. That's the scary part.
Not for
John.
Because we're going to change their minds in the marketplace of ideas because we're so persuasive.
I mean, I just like... they're not going to learn their lesson. I mean, to your point, they're not going to learn their lesson.
It's fine.
Why is it fine?
It's fine. Everything's going to be fine because we're going to make America great again.
We are going to make America great again. But I mean, they can't, was there even 24 hours that they stopped taking shots at Donald Trump?
No.
There really wasn't. I mean, immediately afterward, you had, I think it was CBS anchors going on and saying, well, you did see him raise his fist and call to fight rather than lowering the temperature.
Yeah.
They can't even stop themselves for like literal hours after the guy got shot.
Yeah, as though it's incumbent on Trump to lower the temperature, like as though Trump were doing photo shoots holding, decapitated heads and doing Broadway stage productions where they're pretending to assassinate. Like, this is just like gaslighting and it's all lies. So you will spend, and I've made this mistake. I'm like a recovering addict. You will spend hours and hours of your life just frustrated. Like, why aren't they getting it? If you can just recalibrate your view of liberals as like children, you'll be like, oh, and your cortisol levels will fall.
Incapable.
It's just, you cannot expect these people to be the way that you are. They are just not the same. They're NPCs.
What did you think of Trump's speech?
I thought it was the greatest noise that's ever been made in the world. I mean, my ears hearing that, my eyes seeing that, I've never seen anything like it. Every sentence was perfect. The crowd loved him. The American people loved him. It was somehow powerful but vulnerable at the same time. No one has ever managed to achieve that inflection point. People have tried. They've failed every time. But he did it, and it was incredible. I will always remember where I was when I saw the president, the man in the red tie and the red hat, emerge and come onto his stage and say, I am here, and we're going to keep fighting. He had the bandage and everything because he literally got shot in the head. I mean, there's nothing else in the world that's like it.
Yeah. Did you see that Joy Behar, speaking of dumbasses from The View, Joy Behar went out and said, when Donald Trump said that God saved him, she was like, oh, that's only something a narcissist would say. You can't even make it up. You really can't make it up.
The opposite. That is saying, I would have died if not for the actions of a higher power. I am incapable. I am weak. I only survived because God loves me, even though I am weak and flawed. But Joy Behar doesn't get that because she has worms in her brain.
Well, also, it's like, all right, you don't get to be the authority on religion, Joy. Like, you don't get to talk to me about. Also, you're a demon.
True.
You don't get to talk about religion or God or anything else because you notice they always try to use our standards against us.
Yeah.
even though that's not the standards that they live by. No, you don't get to be the authority on that.
I agree. I think that you had it right in the first half. Like, you don't get to talk up and then just know about.
Just stop.
You don't get to talk. Like, imagine like you send a text to your husband and you're like, oh, can you get like this from the grocery store or something? And he's at the grocery store and he reads the text and he's like, I should probably clarify what she meant. I don't want to get it wrong. That's sort of how I view like human rights, where I look at the Constitution and I'm like, okay, First Amendment, everyone gets to say their piece. Fine. But then I'm like, would George Washington and John Adams and Tom, would they really want her to get on air and say such lies and vicious things about the president? Probably not. And I trust my scholarship enough to make that call, which is why Joy Behar is going to be in Guantanamo Bay in 1 year's time.
He's just joking.
Yeah.
You're just joking.
Totally jokes. This is totally jokes.
Well, just to blackpill you on that before we have to take a break, I will also just say, I mean, you alluded to it earlier. You're like, why would anyone who wakes up and says, like, I'm going to listen to what Whoopi Goldberg has to say? But that show has been on the air for what, like 25 freaking years? I know it's rotated through hosts, but can you think of one good host that it's had?
No,
people are still watching it.
Certainly not Rosie O'Donnell.
No, people are still watching it, though.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't blackpill me, because people are stupid. You know, they're sheep. They want to watch garbage like that, nod their head along. Oh, Orange Man, bad. That's fine. It is what it is.
It's really sad to me. You would think that would have gotten canceled by now, because I'm like, I honestly want to jump off of a bridge when I hear just a clip from that. Imagine watching an entire hour of it. But as John said, brainworms. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back.
So during the break, Sarah and I had some editorial disagreements, given that a couple episodes ago, she was saying that we need to hold these people accountable, and then I make some colorful predictions about where these people should go to be held accountable. She didn't like that, and so she will be taking a brief period of absence. But speaking of people who don't quite get it, you have to see what Joy Reid said about her theory about what went on exactly last Saturday. Very schizophrenic. Take a look at this.
We still don't know for sure whether Donald Trump was hit by a bullet, whether he was hit by glass fragments, whether he was hit by shrapnel. We don't have those details. We actually have no details from his physician, even though this man is still a Secret Service protected, and presidential candidate.
We actually know exactly what happened because all patriots received the images in their dreams. The signal went out and we all understood it. You need to understand that these people are not saying those words to communicate thoughts to you. Truly, I'm going to hammer this point until the hammer breaks. When they say those words and make those sounds, those are all just like Pavlovian impulses to just get you to believe that none of this matters, none of it's real, and everything that happened to Donald Trump was justified, or maybe it didn't even happen and he acted the whole thing out, planned the whole thing just to garner sympathy from the American people. So you can't take these people at their words. They're not serious. They don't like you. They don't like your family. And they especially don't like Donald Trump because he's going to make all of those things great again, just like this great country. And we're excited on account of that. Never surrender. Never stop watching the show. If you do, I'm going to find you. We keep that information.